insight, foresight, more sight. The clock on the wall reads midnight.
Thank you, snowboarding.
Thank you, snowboarding.
Snowboarding, grazie. Hey friends, how you doing? My name is Chris Cracknell. I am your host for Thank You Snowboarding, the podcast diving into all aspects of UK snowboard culture, from the earliest pioneers up there in Scotland to the current crop of UK shredders killing it around the world. Need to send a big shout out to the Snowboard Asylum, who kindly support this endeavour. If you need any kit for this winter, go and see the guys and girls at the Snowboard Asylum. They've been serving snowboarders since '89, so they'll know what you need. So yeah, I hope you're doing all right out there. If you haven't had any turns this winter, I hope you are planning to get some in. The snow conditions across the Alps are pretty good, I think. I'm heading out to Chris Moran's house in the Three Valleys on Friday. And it looks like there's going to be snow over the weekend, so packing the transceiver. Not that I intend to go anywhere that it might be needed, but I kind of also said that to my wife about going out to Lax, and where I found myself with Ed Lee was definitely a situation where you should probably have a transceiver with you. But yeah, that's another story for another day. This week I am absolutely delighted to have probably one of the biggest personalities in UK snowboarding onto the podcast this week. He made a name for himself by turning up. I think he worked at the ski shows, or we go into his history. But he was one of the brains behind Odd Man Out, a classic, seminal, you could say, snowboard movie. He moved into TV and presenting after they released Day Tripper and Still Tripping. He presented Rad for a long time, certainly opened the doors to people like Ed Lee and Tim Warwood in the presenting realm, and has gone on to create an alter ego, DJ BBQ, working with people like Jamie Oliver and hosting stages at festivals all around the world. So I'm of course talking about Christian Stevenson, and this conversation felt to me like two mates talking in a pub. Christian can weave a good story, and I've not laughed so much for a long time. This was a real pleasure, and he was kind enough to just chat and weave in and out all around snowboarding, but all around his life experiences, which are pretty varied. Christian certainly has lived an interesting life. And as we get to, he's just had a baby girl at the age of 56, which again is a pretty unique experience, I would say. But yeah, this is a fun conversation. It's got some length to it as well, so hopefully this is going to while away some time on a long journey or something. But yeah, strap in. This is Christian Stevenson. Hold tight.
You want to hear one of my favorite vinyl stories?
Go on.
So we were at Camp Festival, and Norman Cook always kind of comes over to get some barbecue before he does his sets.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it for like over 10 years. Always finds us or sends somebody to find us.
Yeah.
And gets his barbecue. And he came over, and he was headlining that night.
Yeah.
And he's like, Christian, is it cool to get some barbecue? I'm like, of course, Norman, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, all these people start storming in. I'm like, oh man, he's going to get bugged. Everybody's going to start asking for photos. And that's what happened. So people started, hey, can we get a photo? And I go, and he's like, yeah, sure. And they go, no, not him, you, to me. And I'm like, to me? And I'm like, all right. And so I go, you know, Norman, come over here. I'll just run out there. He's like, listen, Christian, I'll take over for a bit. I'll do a little set, to pay for my barbecue, and you can go do some photos. And I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, I don't mind. I'll do a little set. So as I'm leaving, I've got him in our little area, and we got our smoker and our food truck, and I'm instead of leaving to take the photo with these women, I stopped to look at what he's gonna grab out of my bag. Of course. He's going through my bag, and he pulls out the Herbie Hancock debut. Yeah. And I start arguing with him. I go, Watermelon Man, and he's going Chameleon, and I'm going Watermelon Man, and he's going, Christian, I really think Chameleon's going to work right now. You were in the afternoon. I think it's a much better song. I had to pull myself away and go, why the fuck are you arguing with Fat Boy Slim? He's offered to do a set, and you're arguing with him,
telling him what to play.
It's just such a DJ mentality, like we're so precious.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Of course, when he dropped Chameleon, I looked at him and I go, much better call.
Oh, bless.
Yep.
So do you know what this podcast's about?
I'm guessing it's about old school snowboarding.
Well, it is. Let me briefly outline the sort of arc of things so that you know what to expect. There's nothing horrendous. Don't worry about that. So basically what it is, the point is to inspire people to go snowboarding.
Okay.
So we do that by talking about how you saw snowboarding in the beginning, like where you saw it. And you'll be the only guest that I've had on that's seen it from outside this country. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So then obviously we talk about how you became part of the British scene and all that sort of stuff. And we're trying to get to a point where we talk about what snowboarding means to you and why someone should go and do it.
Okay.
And that can take as long or as short as you like, depending on how much talking you want to do.
Okay.
I mean, I've got all day. So.
Well, the more I'm in here, the less I got to do with the baby.
How is the little one?
Well, 56 with a 1-year-old was on my bingo card, Chris Cracknell, but here we are. I just got like the youngest son out of the house going. He's at Swansea now for university,
right. And
and I had them all out. Then Blue moves back in. I'm that old where my son moved out 3 years ago, moved back in. Yeah, and then we go and have a little girl, which is amazing. It's just, and I got the patience. I got more patience, but I'm just more tired.
Chris Moran was just here, and I've got a question for you later about like when we get to it. But he was like, "Yeah, Christian's just had a baby, hasn't he? Like, what did he feel like he had some spare energy that he needed to get rid of or something?" So maybe it'll keep you young.
I really underestimated it. I really did, and I remember saying to Camille, I cook barbecue for a living. I don't need sleep. I sleep 3 to 4 hours a day, and I'm fine. And then I realized I do need sleep. I'm not as good as I once was, and it isn't easy. I'm a bit more blasé about it all, but it's amazing. And I finally got my girl. After having 3 boys and having full custody of 3 boys for 9 years. It's nice having some support.
And also, so we had 2 boys, then a girl.
Right. See, you did it. Well done.
And the daughter is my daughter. She's just the best.
Thanks for saying that. This is it.
Man, it's just so rewarding. Do you know what I mean? You will love it.
I am loving it. I just need to go to bed at a decent time these days. Instead of going to bed at 2, I go to bed at 10,
Oh, man. Bed at 10's where is that?
Listen,
I did a daytime gig with Mr. Scruff back in November.
Really?
Yeah, 3 till 10 it was on a Saturday afternoon. It's brilliant.
Wow.
So good to be out of, like, you get home, you're in bed at 11, and then you don't feel rubbish the next day. It's the next.
I remember he used to have tea rooms at festivals. You know?
Yeah.
Big Chill I was DJing at when Kanye and Robert Plant were headlining.
Right.
Not together. And I remember seeing Mr. Scruff's area. It just looked amazing. How's he doing?
Do you know what? The energy. By 6 o'clock, I was like, man, he is he has gone hard. And he's like, yeah, at the sort of early ones, you've got to get in early. You've got to go for it, because otherwise you can't wait till like 9 o'clock and you only have an hour to kind of peak. He's like, you got to be peaking at like 5, 6 o'clock.
Oh. Yeah, it's funny how DJ would tell you, like, when do I save my floor fillers?
Yeah,
when do I unleash those? It's a tough one. We used to do these metal festivals in Europe, and on the Thursday night, everybody's kind of arriving. There's no band, so you're the only entertainment. So it's pretty easy to get them in, because people are just kind of setting up tents, and you've got them from 11 o'clock till 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then Friday the bands start headlining and stuff, and you're going against headline acts, but you're still playing music from 10 till 3. So you're trying to fill a field that can hold 2,000 people, and that's hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you don't want to give away your best songs that you're going to get them. When that field is full, you'll get them going with them. Are you down with the sickness, and all those kind of classics, and it is so hard to kind of drip feed them a couple of good ones. You're going to get these later, because I don't like to repeat songs.
Man, you can't repeat songs. That's against the law.
And especially when you're doing weddings, like someone will ask for a song and then they'll come back an hour later. Are you going to play my song? I go, I just did.
Yeah.
And they go, I was in the bathroom. Can you play it now? I'm like, no.
No, it's been and gone.
Yeah. And they don't, they start arguing. I did a New Year's Eve party, and I got 3 of those,
Oh, man.
I went to the bar. Come on, you got to play that song. I'm not playing it. Come on, man. There's rules.
Yeah. Do you not read the DJ book of rules?
Okay. I like the idea. I like the whole premise. And yeah, I'm here. I'm here for snowboarding.
Are you still snowboarding much now? No.
I've got all the kit. It's all in the basement, and I almost went. Last week. Yeah. It's just money, man. When you're working with it, when you're working amongst it, you can make it work.
Yeah.
I kind of funded a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if it snows around here, I'll get my kid out and set up boards for the kids, and we'll go find a hill in Crystal Palace or a golf course like the old days. But having kids is expensive, and then raising 3 kids on your own, I can't take them because I can't afford to take us all snowboarding.
No,
so
that's
yeah. I did some filming with Chris Murray, and he got French Tourism to fly me out, and I got inspired by French cuisine. So I cooked some DJ BBQ.
Oh, that was the tartiflette video. I saw that.
Yeah, fartiflette.
I love tartiflette.
So I took that on top of the mountain, and the thing is, Jamie Oliver's camera guy that I'm with, he can skate, but he can't really snowboard too well. So I'm carrying all the camera kit, all the grills, the charcoal, all the ingredients.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing I'm good at, is riding with gear, because I was always filming.
Yeah.
And my dad was always like, I want to see what you're doing, but you're always filming everybody else. How come I really want to see what you're doing? Yeah, that's kind of the point. I'm there to film and capture and show off the good guys. I'm here to film it,
Yeah.
He said, yeah, but I want to see you. I'm like, that's not how it works, Dad.
So where did you grow up?
Maryland. Gaithersburg, Maryland. Again, riding golf courses.
So did you get like full-on winters, like it would just snow during the winter as it's supposed to?
Yeah, East Coast winters, like New York City, those kind of winters.
Yeah.
Lots of snow, big snow, lots of snow days. You didn't want to have to go to school. And I was always sledding or, getting some crappy skis. I just wanted to slide. I was all about it. And then I found an old photo where I took my metal, rail sled, and I would just surf that on ice.
Yeah.
Just always wanted to go sideways. And then,
yeah, what is that? Because I remember going up to Shooters Hill in southeast London one year when it snowed and we were sledging, and I just wanted to stand sideways. Like, I don't know that I'd seen snowboarding, but there was just like that
there
felt like the thing to do.
Snowboarding. There wasn't, and I was like 12 when I did this, or 10. It wasn't snowboarding. I just think it was in our DNA, like dogs, like healer dogs that nip at your heels. They might not have ever gone out there and herded sheep, but it's in their DNA.
Fucking hell, that is a Mad analogy.
I've been watching a lot of Bluey, man. But yeah, then my dad was on his third wife, my stepmom Pam. They're still together, and we had a surf shop called Sunshine House in the local mall in Lake Forest Mall.
Right.
And I was always in there looking at surfboards and boogie boards and all the kind of surf gear. I loved all that stuff. I used to skate. So I remember when snowboards first got in there. At first, they were just the wood base, the Burton kind of back hills.
Yeah.
Then the P-Tex ones made it to the shop the next year.
Yeah.
And she surprised me on Christmas with a 150 Elite.
No way.
The Burton Performer with a swallowtail.
Yeah.
And that was it. But the problem was you couldn't ride anywhere on the mountains because they didn't like snowboarders. I remember Ski Liberty in Pennsylvania said you can ride on the mountain, but you have to take tests. So you got to buy a ticket to get on the mountain. Then you got to pay for a guy to watch you ride to get to earn your stripes. And so if you can get onto the greens, then you have to pay another test to get on the blues, and you have to pay another test to get on the blacks.
No way.
Crazy. You get tested to get on the mountain. Like skiers are flying off and hitting trees, but we had to take a test.
Yeah.
They just didn't like us. I remember riding in Jackson Hole in 85, 86. And I think I saw one snowboarder the whole time I was there, and everybody just kept kind of spat on me and just gave me crap on the chairlifts. So then I remember they got one of my first non-Burton boards was like the Kemper. And I got a boycott Burton sticker on that, and I got a lot of shit for that one.
You already hated on Burton from that early on.
You can't patent fun, it said. And then I went riding with Jake in Italy years later for MTV, and I spent a day riding with Jake.
Did you tell him?
No, I was too embarrassed.
No, you should have told him.
But I asked him his 5 favorite boards, and he name checked the Safari. He name checked the Elite, and I was riding the Johan Olofsson 163 with the swallowtail graphic.
Oh yeah.
And he goes, Christian, that's one of my top 5 favorite boards. Don't ever sell it. I think that's one of the best boards you've ever made.
Have you still got it?
Yep. If Jake Burton's telling you before he passes away to not sell a board, you listen to Jake Burton, right?
I took one of those out on a demo at Chatham Dry Slope. And fucking hell, that was fast. I flew off that jump like, holy shit.
They're a fast board, man. It's a good size 163,
Yeah. Yeah, I had no business being on that. I'm not Johan Olofsson. I
still think that's one of my all-time favorite boards. I'm riding the Jeremy Jones All Mountains now.
Yeah.
Sladen got me set up with a couple of those over the years. And because I used to go snowboarding a lot this time, the last 9, 8, 10 years ago, because Jamie Oliver would always take me snowboarding.
Oh, okay.
He loves going to the mountains. And he goes, just get out here. I'll pay for accommodation and food. You just get out here and get your lift pass, and I'll look after everything else. That was affordable.
Yeah.
He'd hire whole hotels on mountains.
Wow,
Yeah.
He's done all right for himself, hasn't he?
I'm sharing rooms with my buddy Seth, who's like Black Eyed Peas and U2 and Post Malone's manager. You're sharing rooms with these kind of people. And I'm riding with Jason Fleming, the ginger guy on Lock Stock.
Oh, Lock Stock. Yeah.
He rips on a snowboard.
Does he?
Yeah. And I think the one that surprises people the most of who I've ridden with, because I did 8 half-hour shows with Kylie Minogue.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that because you posted that picture from years and years ago of you lying on a bed with Kylie.
Oh, yeah. But
tell me about that. Come on.
So we did. I was going to do another series of Snowball. It was MTV Europe's second highest rated show after the European Music Awards.
Yeah.
And they had Coolio lined up for me to be my co-host.
Oh man, Gangsta's Paradise.
And then last second they switched him to Mike Patton from Faith No More.
Yeah.
I was like, all right,
take that.
I'm sure he's going to be pretty crazy to work with. And then last second, they brought Kylie in because she kind of went indie for a while before she did that, Can't Get You Out of My Head song.
Yeah. When she did Confide with Me, that was pretty
Yeah.
That felt as if a change of direction, didn't it?
Yeah, she did the spinning around, all those kind of big pop disco classics. But before that, she did the stuff with Nick Cave and all that indie stuff in the Man Street Preachers. So she was a bit more available during her indie phase. So we worked together, and I did some skating with her. She was great. She jumped on my board, and we did some tandem stuff. And then we went snowboarding. And the day after, we were done filming, and it was 1.5 foot of fresh powder and fever balloon. And she's like, "Do you want to just go ride?" I go, "All right," but there's, I'm thinking there's no friends on a powder day. I mean, I know it's Kylie Minogue, so I remember speeding off ahead. But I'm big, and I'm just plowing through this, 1.5 foot of fresh, going, "This is good," but I hope she can keep up. She is right on my tail.
No way.
Right on my tail, and I was going through avalanche barriers. And I'm like, "I'm going to go through these." She's like, "Well, I'm not going to go through them, but I'm going to go next to them, and I'll meet you right down there." I'm like, "All right." And she was on it. Girl can ride.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who knew?
So I'm getting way ahead of all your questions, aren't I, Chris?
No, it's good. I like it. I really like it.
I like it a lot.
I like it a lot.
What's that from? Why did I do that? I like it a lot.
You're going to have to work on your new accent when you move up to the Midlands, aren't you?
Well, I used to live in Birmingham, so I already...
Of course you did, yeah. With Kerrang Radio, right?
Yeah, I can do a Brummie accent. You're right, Bubba. I hung out with Warwood. I lived with Warwood for years. And, you can't get more Brummie than that guy.
No, man.
He's done well for himself, hasn't he?
Tim's done amazingly well for himself.
I'm proud of those guys. I'm proud of all my friends. But, seeing him and Ed Lee and Mark Churchill, like the three guys that I kind of helped train into the world of media. I can only go so far as an American over here, but to watch those guys that I helped, cultivate.
Well, you sort of opened the door, helped open the door for them, didn't you?
Yeah, and I couldn't be more proud.
No, their commentary at the Olympics was unreal.
Yep.
It's such a skill. It's not just being able to talk, is it? It's being able to relate all these small nuances to an audience that don't understand those small nuances, but not to patronise, but to help them understand it so they can then buy into it. Yeah,
that's it. And Ed's really good at doing the kind of analogies and the metaphors that are just so harebrained and crazy, but they make you smile.
Yeah.
And then you got Churchill delivering, the kind of the detail of some of the tricks with skateboarding. And then you got Warwood, who's just this super pumped up, hyper happy person.
Yeah.
And he just it's like a joy to watch him present because he's just so happy to be there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's honest and they come from the sport. They're good at it. And I think they're the best commentators of any of the Olympic sports, winter or summer. I think those guys own it.
Well, I think I said this to Tim, or I've certainly said it in conversation with Tim and Ed, but the way they commentate, I think, has influenced the rest of the BBC's output, certainly like around the Olympics and sport. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's no longer just like, here's times, here's this, this is the major story that we're looking at. It's become a lot more sort of friendly and personable and, not as serious all the time. And, like they're both really good at like the light and shade of it. Like, this bit's serious. Yeah. But then when we're watching it back, we'll throw in some funny things. And
well, that's probably why you see Ed doing like speed climbing and all the other stuff that, they go, we just need some fun color in here, know? It's good. Because like for years, there was horrible commentary. We watched Olympics after Olympics, and it was just like, oh, come on.
I meant to ask Jenny this because we were talking about when she got her bronze, and I remember Claire Balding, I think it was like the Olympics before, kind of made a real sort of shitty throwaway comment about we're crossing over to the snowboarders now, we're going to be like twirling their way down this half pipe or something, right? And I just remember thinking, you prick. Like, you don't understand it. And then like we actually did really well, do you know what I mean? And I was like, a big a big two fingers up to like the old establishment.
Yeah, I got a good story about that Sochi Olympics. So Jenny called me that night after she got the medal.
Right.
That I'm having a party. Will you DJ it? I'm like, of course I'll DJ it.
Yeah.
So flash forward a couple weeks, and she's doing that party in London. That day, I filmed a feature for London Live. London had like a new TV channel about London. And I went to the 5 restaurants that boast the hottest menu in England.
Right.
So I went to the Red Dog Saloon. I did the chili wing challenge. You had to sign a waiver, wear blue gloves. They got Naga Vipers in there. I remember my whole face went purple. There was no moisture left. I mean, it was bad. Then I went to Gilgamesh, where I did this jungle curry with every chili known to humans in this curry. Yeah. And then I went to a Szechuan restaurant, Bar Shu in Soho, and had all their chili dishes. There was like just this big bowl of chilies, and then underneath it all was some fish. It was crazy. Next morning, I was doubled over in the fetal position in my bathroom for 4.5 to 5 hours, just in bits. And I had rehearsals that day at Wembley to host the motocross racing, because I went into motocross for a while with Tim, and then he went on just to do snowboarding. I stuck with motocross because they just wanted a big American voice.
Yeah.
I was 4 hours late for rehearsals, and then I'm just tender, trying to walk everywhere, and then I had to go and DJ Jenny's thing, and I was in bits. That was not a fun day. I did it though.
Yeah. You don't have to do it again.
No. Now I know the bog roll goes into the freezer, and you got to eat ice cream. That's the key to getting rid of heat. Yeah. I host a lot of chili and hot wing eating competitions all around Europe.
Do you?
And I do. And it's the key is milk, cream, sugar.
Right. Okay, top
just
tip.
In case any of your kids do something silly, go get them some ice cream. Get them some vanilla ice cream.
Okay.
You're welcome, Earth.
Amazing.
You learn something new every day here with Chris.
This is it.
DJ BBQ.
Yeah, who thought we'd be talking about how to deal with the fallout from eating too much chilies? So when did snowboarding then? So when did it become a bit more sort of serious for you? Because obviously, you'd obviously grown up sort of doing bits and pieces, but
yeah,
at some point you make it your life, right?
So my Uncle Rip, my mom's brother, looked like Elvis, surfed. My mom's from Virginia Beach, so they were really into the surfing culture. So I kind of grew up with them in the waves. And I remember getting my first snowboard and showing it to him. He's like, "Oh man, I used to make these." I go, "When?" He's like, "63." I'm like, "You snowboarded in 63?" He's like, "Well, we just wanted to emulate what we were doing, in the ocean, on land. So if it snowed, we just kind of make a snowboard." I'm like, "Wow, Uncle Rip." So then I basically was riding in high school, and then I got to University of Maryland, and I remember watching like Endless Summer. I watched all the, Public Domain. These were all seminal films for me. So Endless Summer, Bruce Brown, surfing film, Public Domain, Stacey Peralta. I used to watch them on repeat. And I thought, well, no one's doing this for snowboarding. It's only going to get bigger. Yeah. So I went to University of Maryland and I got my degree in radio, television, and film.
All right.
So I did a 4.5-year course, and I was always snowboarding. Whenever it would snow at Maryland, I go find a hill. And I kept telling everybody, they go, "What are you going to do when you get out of here?" I go, I would just say, I never really used the word manifest, but I would just say stuff like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be a snowboard film director. I'm going to make movies about this. I know there aren't any. And then when I got my degree, I went out to Vail, Colorado. One of my roommates at Maryland just decided to quit school and go out to the Rocky Mountains and be a skier. And he called me. He's like, "Come out here. I got a bed for you." And I'm like, because you finish university and you're like, "God, my life's over. I got to actually be an adult now."
Yeah, you got to do something.
So then I thought I could maybe prolong that a bit and go to Vail. And so I got a job. My first job was covering the Gulf War for a local radio station. So they had an FM that played the classic today and today's best rock, 104.7, 99.3 K-Ski. Then they had an AM station that was country. Well, when the Gulf War was happening, late 80s, early 90s, they went news. So I got a job covering the Gulf War out in Vail.
Jesus.
And then I got a job doing Good Morning Vail, like the kind of breakfast show about the mountain.
Yeah.
And I got a job on camera there. So I'm eating popcorn, shrimp, and lobster at like 6:30 in the morning because restaurants are showing off their menus and stuff. But that kind of got me on the mountain doing these jobs. And then I got a job working for Vacation Video. So they were one of these companies you would hire us to come around with you for an hour with a 3-chip high-8 camera, subscribe, and we would just make videos of you skiing. Yeah. And I would, whenever we weren't busy, I would take the camera kit down to the half pipe, and you had Stevie Alters, Adam Merriman, Todd Richards, that lot were riding the half pipe.
Vail was like one of the sort of scenes at the time, wasn't it?
Well, Breck was more of a scene, but Vail was a good scene. Yeah.
Right.
There was a bit of a rivalry between Summit County and Eagle County. We were Eagle, and you had Whitey with J2 and the Jays down in Kingpin Productions. He was a lot in Beaver Creek and Vail, and so it was like that. Those were the kind of crews, like filming around there. And luckily for us, so I started filming, and then I got the two other guys with the company were like, "Well, I go, why don't we just put all this footage together and make some movies?" And Vail has the #1 knee surgeon in America.
Right.
So knee and shoulder, Stedman Hawkins Clinic. And we did a deal with them to use their editing suite if we did in return, we did some work for them.
Yeah.
So we were doing the offline in the daytime at our house, and then we would go in the evenings and then go online. Yeah. And then we made our first film, Blindside, which led to Odd Man Out. I mean, I never thought I'd make a career out of it, but Blindside got me over to England because I was, trying to find distribution over here because I liked all the music scene. The reason I came to England was music.
Yeah, let's dig into this then.
So I used bands like Swerve Driver, and I love the indie scene over here. I love the Smiths and all these, the Manchester Stone Roses, all that music. So I got over here, found distribution, and then I ended up I went over and met with Swerve Driver, who were on the soundtrack to the first film.
They did a version of Magic Bus, didn't they?
Well, that came, we became friends, and I was able to get them to do that. So the manager signed a new band coming up called Reef.
Oh, of course.
So I was getting cassette kind of demo singles down in Portugal when I was down there, just kind of having good times, and came back and ended up meeting the record label Sony. Yeah. Doing a music video for Jamiroquai, then ended up getting a movie and an album deal with Sony. Yeah. I just met the right people in this credit in this lineage, and it just led me to, taking Jamiroquai and the band, out to Austria and sticking a Walkman under his hat. And he would lip sync the song whilst riding down the mountain.
So were you filming for Odd Man Out when you did that video as well?
How do you think I paid for all that film stock? Hey, how much film you need? And I go, well, yeah, I need 2 months of filming. So we just, Sony helped fund that,
Because you had Chris Moran and Steve Bailey in that shoot as well, didn't you?
So the story with that was Jamiroquai pulled out of the first week of shooting. Right. And we're already set to film. We had hotels and everything. So Moran, Steve Bailey, and the guitarist from Ned's Atomic Dustbin, Rat. We all went.
I love Ned's Atomic Dustbin.
So we all went because we had all these spaces and everything available. So we all just went and just filmed, the other stuff. Yeah. And then we filmed with Jamiroquai. Then I went off to Les Arc and filmed with like Kenty and Russ Bross, Stu Bross, the A snowboard team, you know,
Yeah.
putting it all together.
How did you meet the British sort of contingent?
My first job in England, maybe not so legally. Sure it was. I volunteered. I got a job at TSA at the ski show.
Did you?
So I was selling snowboards with Steve Bailey.
Yeah, but how did you come across the TSA then to work for them?
Okay, so I got a job. I guess because I was in snowboarding and I was trying to make my movies over here.
Yeah.
And I met Martin Drayton.
Yep.
And Simon Nichols and all those guys.
So Simon Nichols.
Kind of pre-Sladen.
Yeah.
That I got in there. They just said, you know, do you want to, you know, run the stand here? And I remember seeing Grom Stu Bross coming by, you know, and Moran was hanging about. And yeah, that's kind of how I met those guys, was at the ski show. I was just working with Bailey selling snowboards, because I worked in snowboard shops in Australia. Right. So before I went fully into filming, I got a job at a snowboard shop in Australia called Cherry Pow Pow.
What? That is the... I mean, of course it was called that.
Imagine after, you know, Cherry Pow Pow, brow. What can I do for you? So I had experience selling boards, fixing boards.
Yeah.
And then, and I just told that to the guys at TSA and blagged a job. And then I got a job at Black Diamond selling ski films on the phone.
They were the distributor, weren't they?
Yeah. Them, Al Green from A4. Yeah. Just so I was just trying to, like, you know, create an industry.
Yeah. Because
there wasn't a snowboard film industry. There was a ski industry, there was a skate, and there was a surf.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to create this new world of filming snowboarding. And Toby Malaj, my best mate, he was running a surf tour company in Portugal, and he was trying to get that going. So we just load up his old Datsun, and we go down to all the surf shops and go surfing. And I would bring a case of Blindsides, my very first film, trying to sell them to surf shops, because there weren't any snowboard shops to sell them to. Everything was still a ski store.
Yeah, of course it was.
In 84. And not 84, sorry, 94.
Yeah.
You know, it took a while before you started just seeing. I mean, TSA must have been around then, right?
Well, TSA are claiming 89, aren't they?
Okay, well, there you go. So that was it. I think that's why I was able to work for them, because like they knew I was trying to be in this thing, and they were the first ones to take my films. They had an Odd Man Out poster on the wall in the Covent Garden shop, you know.
I mean, Odd Man Out, and I imagine quite a few people that will listen to this will. I mean, Kings North, he cites Odd Man Out as like that's what got him into snowboarding.
Oh, wicked.
Stu Brass, you know, he chose Slide Away by Oasis as his tune. Do you know what I mean? Like, Odd Man Out definitely helped galvanise maybe European snowboarding, but certainly because it had British snowboarders in it, that meant a lot to the British snowboarding scene, I imagine.
We looked at Europe and Britain as the same. We wanted to promote this side of Lake Atlantic. Yeah,
it's funny, isn't it? Because from sort of a British point of view, you know, Europe's got the mountains, you know, France, Austria, Switzerland, you know, Slovenia, wherever, they've got the Alps.
Yeah.
And we're looking at that from afar. Whereas it's funny that you came over and just said, well, this is all one thing.
Yeah. And it's easy to get there. And you guys were good at riding those mountains.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Moran, Steve Bailey, you know, I know they all started on dry slope, but that was painful to watch, that whole culture, because I was like, holy shit.
Have you ever ridden dry slope?
Yeah, of course, because I would go host dry slope competitions for years. I mean,
of course.
Yeah, you know, Ed Lee and I we went on to start an emceeing company, you know, and we did Board X and all those. So we were just the voices of snowboarding.
Yeah, well, I know you did like the big things like Board X and sort of the urban games and whatnot, but did you do like I don't think you did. Did you do Sheffield?
Yeah.
Were you at the riot?
I was at the riot. I remember seeing it shooting down the mountain, and wasn't Russ still in the thing when it got taken down the?
I don't know.
Yeah, I was there. I think I was with Steve Bailey, probably smoking.
Yeah, probably.
On a bong, and then we just were a bit like, "What is that? A trailer shooting by?"
Bailey was the person that introduced me to doing a lung in Les Arcs as well, actually. I think the first evening we met him, he was like, yeah, I've got a bit of something to smoke. Come on, let's go. And Jesus Christ.
I love that. That Bailey, I wish I was more in touch with the guy. You know, I know we saw him recently at that photo exhibition.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was like he was like my first friend really over here in snowboarding. And Moran, and then it was him and Moran that kind of got me into everything, and because we were all young and silly and just we were having a good time.
Yeah, I sort of looking back, at the time you think that everybody knows what they're doing, or everyone's got a plan. It's only like looking back realizing that none of us knew what we were doing or trying to achieve.
This is it. I think that's why I was trying to create. I knew the lifestyle I wanted to lead.
Yeah.
I knew there wasn't really this kind of work, there wasn't an industry out there. You had the Volcom film with the garden. And then of course you had standard films and Fall Line. Once I saw, Riders on the Storm and Mac Dog's The Hard, the Hungry, and the Homeless. Yeah. I was like, man, and I was already filming, but I was like, I need to get to this level.
Yeah.
And I must have watched Hard, the Hungry, and the Homeless about 120 times. I must have seen Roadkill 200 times.
See, I could say the same thing for Critical Conditions.
Yeah.
That was mine. 4 times a day throughout the summer at least. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I'd just sit and analyze every aspect of it.
And I remember, because I went on to become the Vans skate and snowboard team manager, and years later I've got John Cardiel with me. Yeah. And I go, John, man, you were my favorite snowboarder. And he's like, oh man, was that your time? And I go, yeah. I go, you were the best. You were way ahead of the curve with stuff. I was like, why'd you stop? He's like, oh man, that world's just too glam and glitzy. That ain't me. And he's right. There's blue collar and white collar.
Yeah.
It was working class and kind of middle class, just because it wasn't a cheap sport to get into.
No, and even less so now, I would suggest.
Yeah, that's the shame.
It is.
Look at me, a guy who comes from snowboarding. I can't really afford to go snowboarding.
No. Well, that's a different subject for another time.
Yeah, sorry.
I've got definite thoughts on that. I think it's a real sort of the white elephant of snowboarding at the moment is how it doesn't become like just this elitist pastime.
Yeah.
That's for a more serious podcast.
Okay,
though.
let's not do
we'll
that.
Stroke our beards to that another time.
I had to shave mine because it was going like yours. Now I just do the number 1, number 2 cut.
Oh, well, yeah, I do it with the clippers, like the hair clippers. Number 1, boom, that'll do. Functional.
Yeah.
just to try and sort of keep the demise into looking like a homeless dude.
I think you're looking good. You mean, you should let it go and just do Santa Claus every Christmas, man. You look great.
I appreciate that. I'm trying to go full Rick Rubin. I think that might be.
Same thing.
I mean, it is the same thing. If you get to work with Rick Rubin, you essentially are getting Father Christmas, aren't you?
Well, I used to snowboard as Father Christmas in Vail. So my dad was a greeting card salesman for Hallmark. And he would get all sorts of crazy costumes and outfits because he would dress the whole house as Christmas because he was selling Christmas in the middle of summer.
Yeah. So
our house was Christmas 2 times a year. Middle of summer in July, fully decked out, point of sale stuff. And he had high end Santa outfits.
Yeah.
And so I go snowboarding, and then I stick a couple pillows in my big red coat, and I go shredding down the mountain. I made the front cover of the Vale Daily, shooting out of some trees on skis, and it said what Chris Kringle does the day after Christmas. No, it was me, Christian Kringle.
So Odd Man Out being a seminal thing, I think.
Thanks for saying that.
And I mean, then you went on, did Day Tripper.
Yep, and got Wheeler involved. I saw the best snowboarder to come out of the scene. So I mean, I think Moran's got the best style.
Yeah. To
have come out of the British scene, but pushing tricks.
Yeah.
Was Wheeler.
Yeah.
And Bailey. Bailey is it's just incredible what he was able to do. But getting Moran and McNabb and Wheeler and Brossi, on the school bus.
Yeah. And
I'm used to just kind of doing everything. And I remember driving from Vail to Brighton and Salt Lake City. And, Moran and those guys were like, can we drive? And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, I can take a break. I don't have to drive. I don't do everything.
Yeah.
And I remember thanking Moran. He looks at me. He's like, I go, dude, Moran, thank you so much for driving the school bus, because it's quite tiring driving all the time. And he's like, you're kidding me. Thank you. I'm a kid from Manchester. I'm driving a school bus in a blizzard through the Rocky Mountains to Utah. Thank you for giving me this.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you're welcome. Thanks for driving, dude.
You had a young Travis Parker in that movie as well, didn't you?
We did. Yeah. Young grommet Travis Parker. And, he had insane style, and he had a mad bag of tricks. Also a young Chad Otterstrom.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I remember going up. We built some kickers over around in Summit County, and I was filming with him and Travis. Chad was just there running around doing stuff. And I was like, you want to come film with me and Travis Parker? But the one thing I liked about Travis was he made me laugh. Like, he easily one of the funniest people you'll hang out with.
Yeah.
Like, we were middle of nowhere. We were filming with a guy called Matt Hale, who was a Vans rider. And we've been riding with him and filming and building jumps and stuff. And we get to some like A-frame in the middle of outside of Breckenridge, and there's just this dog hanging out, and Travis is just talking to the dog, calling him Patches. And I'm like, is that the dog's name? He's like, no, it just looks like a Patches. I'm like, it's a great name for a dog. But he was just so subtle in his humor. And there's a couple guys I felt like they weren't from this planet.
Yeah.
And that was Travis Parker and David Vincent.
David Vincent, well, he probably was from this planet, but has done his best to distance himself from this planet.
Yeah, they just felt like they didn't really belong.
Yeah.
They were just on their own planet.
But I got sent a DVD of the Gap session, the David Benedict movie, the other day, and I ripped it and I put it up on YouTube and watched it. And Travis Parker in that, you can tell that he sees the world through a different lens.
Yeah. Well said. Well said.
And I find that fascinating. I'd love to know more about him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I got to write the intro in White Lines when because Matt Barr knew I was friends with him, and he was like, do you want to write the intro? And man, it'd be my pleasure, just because this guy is different. I think he's struggled with his mental health a little bit over the years.
So.
And I reach out to him every now and then, just check in on him, because
he's sectioning Lame with Tears for Fears as the track. I mean, that's all time, isn't it?
I gave up watching snowboard films apart from Lame, Afterbang. Those are the ones I kept watching, and whatever Warwood and Gendel did, just because they were fun.
Yeah.
But the Lame and Afterbang, I felt kind of kept that spirit of Riders in the Storms, Critical Condition, Roadkill, and what we were doing.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I think, I sort of carried on watching the David Benedict ones. I like him as well.
I like him as a person.
I've not met him. I'd love to be his mate. I'm sure he's a brilliant guy.
Well, he was over a lot. I mean, he was at every event I was at when I was covering snowboarding globally.
Yeah.
You know, Benedict was there, and he was one of the, because you had a lot of Austrians, but isn't he German?
He's German, isn't he?
Yeah, and he is one of the most friendliest, nicest dudes out there, and he was one of the early Solomon kids, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've only ever heard nice things about him, and from what I've seen him like do and the way he goes about things, I think his episode of the Bomb Hole was good. If you've not listened to that,
okay,
that's definitely one of the ones you should listen to.
Because I know Whitey just did one, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Whitey's just put up all his old videos. He's like 4K'd them up and like colorized them and stuff, hasn't he?
Yeah, they're all in the basement. I'm wondering if it's time for me to get, because yeah. I mean,
well, there was talk. Tim was saying that Jeremy's floating the idea of like up-resing the all the lockdown ones as well. So maybe it's time.
Okay. Whitey put him on. You know, he had a Bolex. Like he and I both shot on Bolexes, the wind-up cameras.
Right.
They were like clockwork. So you didn't have a battery with them. So we had an Aeroflex ST. We had a little battery, and then I was using the Bolex. So everything was there in one thing. And he made a Bolex flash drive.
Right.
So that's how you buy his films, which I thought was genius.
Yeah, that is genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the problem with you having such good music on Odd Man Out is that you can't watch it on YouTube.
Well, you know what's weird? We cleared it all. It's all paid for. Every song on Odd Man Out, Blindside, Day Tripper, they're all cleared. And I pretty much have clearance on most of Still Trippin'.
Yeah.
But I think I just kind of started taking the foot off the gas by now. I was like, I just can't. There's so much work clearing a soundtrack of those levels.
Yeah, of course.
And because I had a CD with Odd Man Out and Sony, and then I went to A&M Records and Polygram.
Yeah.
So this is the funny thing is Ian Dixon, who is the Simon Cowell of like American Idol in Australia and Australia's Got Talent. He and I were at Sony, and he went over to Polygram, and he brought me over because he wanted to do one up on Sony. So I got to go to a Polygram and A&M Records to do Day Tripper CD movie, and he overlook it. And then he left and became that bad guy watching people perform, which I always found has got to be the best job.
You think?
Whenever I'm doing any kind of acting or any kind of film work or TV, or I did a lot of video games. I did a lot of acting in video games.
Did you?
Playing the bad guy is way more fun than being the hyped up super American woohoo dude that I normally get typecasted as, you know?
Well, come on, tell me. I mean, obviously, I know about your appearance in Chalet Girl, essentially be playing you.
Yeah, the big stretch for my acting abilities there, Chris Cracknell. No, I did a bunch of films. I did a bunch of games with with Ken Block.
Oh, really?
So we took the Colin McRae. So this feeds on to Odd Man Out. Here we go. Got a phone call from a buddy of mine who used to be at PlayStation, because I set up the first PlayStation snowboarding, skateboarding team.
Oh, that's right, because Dave was on your team, so we got we were getting all the games.
Yeah. So I would give everybody the system, a bag, and games monthly. That was all through Jeff Glendenning, who built PlayStation Skate Park.
Oh, Jeff Glendenning, that's a name as well, isn't it?
Yeah. He was there to help, fund the Brits and all that.
Yeah,
he was there. So a guy that used to work for Jeff, guy called Guy Pierce, I was over at Kerrang Radio, and he calls me. He's like, dude, we're doing this rally game, and I want to make it more like your snowboard films. I want to give it that fun, that the music that you used to have on your soundtracks. So I was like, okay. He's like, can you come in for a meeting? So I ended up doing the soundtrack to 3 video games for them: Dirt 2, Dirt 3, Dirt Showdown. The first 2 got BAFTA nominations, and I was lead voice actor on them.
Wicked.
So I got to do acting with because we had Travis Pastrana in there, the late Dave Mira, sadly the late Ken Block.
Yeah.
And he would come over, and we would go out and have food and do a bunch of acting. And I remember he pulled me into a restaurant once. I got him into his favorite restaurant. He goes, Christian, I got to ask you something. I go, what do you want? He's like, will you come on tour with me on the World Rallycross Tour and be my personal chef? And I'm thinking, that's a great offer. He goes, I still want you to do all your videos you're doing on YouTube and Instagram with all your food stuff as DJ BBQ, but I want you to come and cook for me and have fun and do some filming with me and Pierre Wickberg and stuff and all that. And I was like, man, I'm just going through a divorce.
Yeah.
And I'm just getting custody of my kids. And if I had this offer like 10 years ago, I'd snap at it.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't the right time of my life.
Yeah.
You know, it was a wonderful offer. And also, a lot of times when he would come over, he would go, can you get an extra seat at the table for a friend of mine? I go, sure. And then Matt LeBlanc, Joey Tribbiani would walk in. And then he did it again. Like, you know, he wanted us to get me back into his favorite restaurant, Kitty Fisher's, it was called. The head chefs now has Mountain Beak in Soho and Brat in Shoreditch. Is when he was best new chef at the time.
Right.
And they had this kind of retired dairy cow ribeye that was like 80 quid a pop, but it was beautiful. And I went in there and it was Ken Block and his management team and Joey Tribbiani and the bill, I could see the bill kind of getting like this. And I'm like, guys, I need to cash out now because I can't afford to keep going with you guys. I'm going through a divorce and it's expensive.
Yeah.
And Ken's like, don't worry, we got you, Christian. Saw everybody the next day down at Goodwood. And I go, how much was the bill when you guys left? They go, $3,000. I go, wow, that's a lot of money, man. They go, we didn't pay for it. When no one was looking, Matt LeBlanc pulled out his black Amex, gave it to the waitress, and just covered the whole thing without anybody even knowing.
No way. Is he a dude? Because he wore a Foursquare top in Friends once, didn't they? And they had to pull him up and tell him to stop wearing it because it was attracting the wrong sort of customer.
Man, how cool. It was like, oh my God, Joey's wearing Foursquare.
Yeah.
You want to hear my favorite Matt LeBlanc story?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So in England, you guys have a thing called Young Farmers. So
Yeah, I know. Yeah, my wife's from a farming background.
There we go. So they would raise like a rabbit or a cow or a sheep or a pig, and they would show them off, and they would have like awards, like, you know, best in show.
Oh, yeah.
All that. So in America, it's called the 4-H Club. And the county fair, they would parade all their animals out there, and then they would, you know, award them a ribbon. But in America, they auction them after they award the ribbon.
Right. Straight away.
Pretty brutal, man. But that's
the highs and lows of farming.
Yeah. So Matt LeBlanc, he has a ranch out in California. He give his buddy like a big wad of cash. Like, listen, go buy me top 3 cow. Go bid on the top 3. You know, if number 1 starts getting out of hand, just buy number 2 or 3. Those are happy cows.
Yeah.
And he would secure like the number 2 cow in the state of California at the biggest county fair, and he'd send it to slaughter and throw a bunch in his freezer so he'd have meat for a while, and then he would just throw a big party and just cook steaks for everybody. Good for him.
Well, you know, if you've got it, why not, eh?
That's what, if I was making friends money, that's exactly what I would do.
Yeah, share it around, you know, like have good times with your mates. I mean, that's what it's there for, isn't it? Can't take it with you.
No. Good old Joey. He's always my favorite.
Hey, how you doing? No, that wasn't the right accent at all. That was Dave Angel off the Fast Show. Was it? How you doing?
How you doing? My favorite is when he's running around with a turkey on his head.
I've not revisited Friends for a long time. Does it still stand up?
It can be a bit problematic, like most shows.
Oh, really? Like most things.
They don't date as well as you want them to. But you still love Chandler.
Yeah.
You know.
God rest his soul.
Or a little bit out. I know I keep going on tangents and everything. I apologize. So I've been out. I'm glad you said what you said. It was great to champion the British scene. And again, we did it with Day Tripper.
Yeah.
And I think you get to see people like, you know, Kenty, you know, these people that we knew how good Kenty was.
Yeah.
And we got to put Kenty in the Jamiroquai video and in Odd Man Out. And now he's like, you know, badass, you know, furniture maker.
Yeah.
But Kenty was one of the best, I thought. He went big. He had a smooth style. kind of reminded me of like a pre-Nelson.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, it was nice being able to get a glimpse of those guys. Even Russ Brass was badass.
Some might say he was the most naturally talented out of the three. I'm not saying that, but some might say it.
I've had some good times with Cy when he was loose as hell.
Yeah.
Me, your brother,
Yeah.
Cy Brass at the World Champs in Vancouver, with Mixmaster Mike from the Beastie Boys on the decks, and we got ourselves to some party that night. Did they end up in the drunk tank? Did Cy end up in the drunk tank? I don't remember. It was a blur.
That's just reminding me, actually. I think Dave was hanging out with you at the Notting Hill Carnival once, and you bumped into Tina Bassich when she was going out with Dave Grohl.
They were with each other, and
Yeah.
Dave and I were talking, your brother and I see Grohl and Tina coming, and Grohl's wearing a "Virginia is for Lovers" shirt, which is the state motto of Virginia.
Yeah.
My mom's from Virginia. I'm from Maryland. Our state motto: Maryland is for crabs. So because we have the Chesapeake Bay,
Right.
and for some reason someone thought that's the way to sell the state.
That's the best they could come up with.
Dude, Virginia is for lovers. It
Yeah.
sounds wonderful. Like,
It does, doesn't it?
I
want to
go to Virginia.
Yeah, I want to go.
Maryland is for crabs. It was on our license plate. So he's walking, and as I'm walking to him, I go, man, I don't even look at him. I go, man, Virginia got the best state motto. Virginia is for lovers. Maryland? What? Maryland is for crabs? And I didn't look at him. I just thought I'd make him smile. And him and Tina were walking, and I just kept bitching and yelling, Maryland is for crabs. And then I did a cheeky look, and he was just doubled over laughing with Tina at me.
Winner.
Yeah.
So when did the DJ BBQ, that seemed to spawn out of a love of wearing when did the spandex thing kick in?
That's a good question. We always, Ed Lee and I would have we would put a wardrobe budget
Right.
into our contracts.
Was this after he'd done Satan Whoppercock?
No, pre-Satan Whoppercock.
Pre-Satan Whoppercock.
Yeah, I remember going shopping for that
Yeah.
outfit. And he has his company's called Whoppercock Limited.
I didn't know that.
And we used to have the same accountant, and they have to list all the companies they have. And at the bottom of the list, as you walk into the office, it just says Whoppercock Limited.
Oh my god, that is genius.
You know it. I think his second or third air guitar championships, he built an 8-foot penis out of chicken wire and paper mache. Yeah. And he jumped out of it to Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin. And then the drum kind of solo with John Bonham, he goes back into the Willie, and he mixes in Frankie Goes to Hollywood, stop.
Relax,
Yeah, relax, don't do it. And he would come out of the cock and go, relax, don't do it. Relax, don't do it. And behind the curtains was his now wife, but back then his girlfriend, Sean Lee. Sean, what was Sean's last name? She's on a ladder at the top of behind the curtains, behind the penis, with a fire extinguisher, 9 liters hooked up to the top of the bell end. And Ed didn't have any money, so that was how he decided to experiment with it. He did it on the crowd. So the first ejaculation kind of hit the ceiling and splattered the first 3 rows of people. Then the next one hit everybody in the back. And as the song Whole Lot of Love kicks back in, Ed Lee ejaculates on the crowd. I remember asking him when he went to the BBC, did they know about this? He's like, no.
No, it's tightly controlled, isn't it? Because I was explaining this to my kids. For some reason, we got talking about like air guitar, and I said, "Oh, my mate, he was the air guitar champion." And they were like, "Yeah, go on then." And I was like, "Yeah, he was called Satan Whoppercock." And my kids were like, "What?" And I googled it. You can't find anything online about it. So I messaged Ed, and he was like, "Listen, I'll send you a few pictures, but for eyes only. Do you know what I mean? You can't put these anywhere."
he killed them off. I remember we were doing radio together at Kerrang, and everybody, air guitar got really big, and it was like best air guitar in the world, album in the world ever. They were selling those things. And he just like, nah, Satan drowned in a pool of his own spunk is what he would say. And every now and then when we were doing we had a radio show called Total Rock it was called the Rock Copter.
The Rock Copter, I remember.
And every now and then he would just turn into Satan. Like he would be Ed, and then he would just go, die, mortal. And I'm like, whoa, yo, hey. And years later, we're doing a vert ramp at Reading Festival for Red Bull. We're hosting a big vert ramp. We got all the top BMXers and skateboarders there, and we had a day off. And the Darkness were playing on the main stage, and Ed's sister just started dating the guitar player.
Right.
So that's how we blagged our way into VIP. I was like, listen, they were like, you guys don't have pass. I'm like, mate, his sister is going out with the guitar player. I might have said it a bit more vulgar. And the guy laughed and let us in. Anyway, the Darkness were doing this after party at Reading, and Ed brought back Satan Wappercock.
One last time.
To More Than a Feeling by Boston, which Nirvana nicked wholeheartedly for Smells Like Teen Spirit. It's the same riff, just sped up.
Right.
John, chicka John, tacoon. Anyway, so Ed's doing a windmill, like he's doing like a full-on doom, like with the axe, and he's catching his toes, full on. And I'm in the crowd, and I'm on a chair, like egging on Ed, and Bez from the Happy Mondays is in there high-fiving me because he used to watch Rad. He was a big Rad fan. So you meet musicians who are Rad fans. Our show on Channel 5. I know we didn't talk about that. And Ed's doing this windmill, and he misses his front foot. So he goes from his back foot with his air guitar and flips straight to his head. Like, bam, out cold. But it was the part of the song of More Than a Feeling when it does that breakdown. When I'm tired and think I'm cold, I look into my music to start the day. And I think of a girl I used to know. And it builds up. And I wonder why. And then it kicks back in. He came to on that bit. And the place, because the whole place went silent, when that part of the song, and Ed knocked himself out. Because he had the whole tent watching him. Ed had everybody.
Yeah.
And then, oops, I'm just trying to get I'm running out of juice here on my laptop. And then Ed came to and finished the song, and then everybody was hugging and high-fiving. Like Ed saved the day off More Than a Feeling by Boston.
Incredible. So I want to go back to Rad, just as you mentioned.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And also to your Kerrang radio show as well, because I remember I think I bumped into you in London once, and you told me about that, and I was like, oh man, that was before I sort of found a voice and got on the radio. I was like, man, I've always wanted a radio show.
You're made for it, Chris.
Well, I've got a face for it, that's for sure.
No, me too. I hear you. No, I think this is the best you've ever looked.
Well, I'll take that as a compliment.
I like this look. You look happy, man.
I am happy. So let's go back to Rad, because Rad was one of those, it was a bit like Bored Stupid. It had it was broadcast at the right time. It was when sort of people would go out on a Saturday night, and they'd be lying in on a Sunday morning. Did it go out on a Sunday? I'm pretty certain, because Bored Stupid didn't it? It had a massive audience.
Yeah, it basically shifted between Saturday around 10:30.
Yeah.
11 sometimes, or Sunday between 10 and 11. It went for 10 years.
Yeah.
So we kind of juggle. But yeah, if you're out on a Friday night, you're watching it on a Saturday. If you're out on a Saturday night, you're watching it on a Sunday. Yeah. And it was at that time where you would actually wake up, and it's something easy to watch. Yeah,
exactly. So it had a bigger reach than, like that program now would get the specific audience.
Yeah.
Whereas back then you would just get everybody, because people would wake up, put the TV on.
Well, there was nowhere else to get that kind of content unless you were going to a skate shop or a snowboard shop to buy a video. There wasn't YouTube. There wasn't anything else. There was Bored Stupid, and then there was Rad. And Trans World Sport did a little bit.
Yeah, they had sort of short seasons that were sort of, they would specify one sport each time
Yeah.
on it. So if you like that sport,
Yeah.
you know, like the BMX, skating, snowboarding ones, but then they'd do a rock climbing one, it'd be like,
Yeah. Well, they
not really interested.
they did a show called High Five.
Yeah.
And I was the voice of that for a couple seasons. And that's kind of how I got over here and started working in that. Because I was always behind the camera.
Yeah.
And it was only when someone asked me to do high five where I'm like, oh, okay, I can voice this. And then realize, okay, maybe I can go in front of the camera instead of just being the camera guy. And if it wasn't for High Five, I probably wouldn't have made Rad. And when I got offered Rad, the reason I got offered Rad is I was directing music videos for like a bunch of bands, and I was running around this building called Sunset and Vine, and someone's like, hey, there's a new network starting up, do you want to do a pilot? And I go, well, I'll do the pilot, but I got to go back to the States and make Day Trips. I think I was doing Day Tripper or Still Tripping at the time.
Yeah.
And then I remember I took a camera, a VX1000 with a microphone with a big dead squirrel on it, and I filmed myself presenting going down Liverpool Street. So when you're watching it, you're just watching people shooting by.
Yeah.
But my head's right in that frame. And that's how I did the very first kind of links to camera.
No, right.
You know, shooting through people talking. And then we took Danny Wainwright to Liverpool Street and just showed how skateboarding is pretty much illegal, you know, in a lot of places. And we did a big feature on that. And Channel 5 loved it. And we ran for 17 seasons, won the network their very first BAFTA. And got to put Mark Churchill on there, you know, at the very beginning.
Yeah, well, that was his beginnings of being on camera, wasn't it?
Yeah, Trick of the Week, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, that was like the best job I think I've ever had. And then we kind of, I think Gary Greenshield says he's the one that gave me the idea to do the Groms, and he probably might have been. I don't remember a whole lot, but I think he said you should film more youth.
Yeah.
He says he did, so I'm going to take his word for it.
Fine, we'll give him that.
Yeah, and that's when we kind of changed it up from a magazine show, you know, Search for the Holy Grail, Skateboard Trick of the Week, you know, X Games. It was just all kind of like little 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, you know, chunky. Yeah. And then we decided to go on tour with some skaters, and I built like a magazine show around the kind of tour element. And then I went full tour, where I took the Groms to the Rockies. You know, we took, you know, Ben Kilner, Patty Graham, Laura Berry, you know, James Carr, all these kind of young up and coming, you know, Groms, and took them shredding or skating, and created this kind of, I don't know, like extreme documentary type of show. Yeah. And it was bad. You know, I don't know if you knew this, at the BAFTAs when we won in 2004, 2005. We beat Dick and Dom in the Bungalow. And
that is some heavy. That is heavy. Dick and Dom were, you know,
they won the year before. You know, they were big
in the Bungalow.
And I remember coming down to the bar, and they were bellied up to the bar, looking at me like, "You're the guy that beat us." I go, "Yeah, sorry." They go, "Well, we're kind of stoked. It was a little snowboarding show on Channel 5 that beat us because you know, you're cool." And then I made my baby my 18-year-old. We conceived him that night in the Park Lane Hilton. I'm like, come on, you can't say no. I'm holding a BAFTA.
It's as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah. Yeah, but Rad was fun. We got to do a lot of. We got to go. I mean, I was at San Diego. I was at San Francisco the year. I was at the bottom of the ramp. Wayne Yates, who was the director of Rad, he was on one side of the ESPN vert guy. So he had a special chair that was built for swiveling.
Right. You
can just film it all. And we were at the Best Trick Comp.
Yeah.
I said to Wayne, film everything. I know we get stuff from ESPN, but film everything, because if something big happens, we might not get everything that went down. Because Colin McKay was doing killer stuff. Yeah. Bob Burnquist was doing killer stuff. And then Tony landed the 9.
You were there when Tony landed the 9.
That's our footage. If you look on the internet, that's all of our stuff, you know?
No way.
Yeah, This Is Mayhem bought that footage from us.
That was a moment, isn't it?
That was cool. I was sitting, Danny DeVito was right behind me for that moment. I remember I tried to get an interview with him and he wouldn't talk to me.
You've got the best name drops.
Yeah. Well, I nick Moran's joke all the time, but Madonna did tell me to quit name dropping. I made that joke mine, but Moran taught me that one. So did David Bowie. He was always giving me shit for it.
Yeah.
Bless him.
You outrank my best name drop.
What's your best name drop?
My best name drop is I was having a drink with Peter Buck from REM.
Dude,
talking about
cool.
I was like, I can't listen to Automatic for the People anymore. I tried listening to it knowing that I was going to meet him. My mate was in a band with him, and he was in Brighton, so we went down there. And that day I was like, oh, maybe I'll revisit Automatic for the People. And it just reminded me so much of me when I was like 17, 18, that I found it really difficult to listen to.
Well, did you not like 17-year-old Chris Cracknell?
Well, it just sort of brought up a lot of, kind of teenage stuff, tricky things.
We're always that's a tricky time of our lives.
It is a tricky time of our lives, but I hadn't listened to that album for ages. So anyway, like I got talking to him and I said that, and I said basically at the time all I listened to was Automatic for the People and Nevermind.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, yeah, me and Kurt used to hang out all the time. And I'm like, sat there going, fucking hell, like this is mental.
Buck produced one of my favorite songs of all time.
Right.
He produced a band called Uncle Tupelo, which split to become Wilco and Sunvolt.
Okay, I've heard of Wilco.
So Wilco, pre-Wilco, was a band called Uncle Tupelo.
Right.
Kind of alt country. They were doing Buck worked with him on an album called March. It was like a date, March something to something something. He did a week with him.
Right.
There's a song on there called Sandusky.
Right.
That Buck produced, and it's in my top 10.
I'm gonna have to write that down.
It's a little. There's no singing in it. I think it's like either a banjo or a mandolin. It's just a beautiful little jaunt.
Yeah. And
that was Peter Buck.
Yeah, well, that's my best. That's my best clanger.
Good one.
It's not bad, is it?
No, dude. REM's amazing. We announced we were pregnant with our baby girl with Michael Stipe.
Go on.
So I was hosting Taste of London, and the woman who runs Taste of London, they have like chefs that come in from all over the world. I was doing an event in Australia. With Marco Pierre White.
Right.
And on the plane over, she's like, do you know who REM are? I'm like, of course I know who REM are. I've seen REM 7 times, maybe 8 times. I love REM. She's like, oh, my best friend, he's with Michael. They're partners. I go, right. Your best friend's partner is Michael Stipe? She's like, yeah. Flash forward after COVID, and now we're at London, Taste of London 2 years ago. She's like, oh, Christian Mike might be coming by today. I'm like, you're telling me Michael Stipe's going to come to a food festival in the middle of Regent's Park? And I go, I don't believe it. Fucking Michael Stipe turns up, and I start telling Michael Stipe stories. I'm like, I saw you guys play at Merriweather Post Pavilion, and it started raining, and you started playing Who Will Stop the Rain by CCR. And he goes, yeah, I know. I was there. I'm trying to tell him stuff he's already done.
Yeah, he lived it.
I was there. He's so deadpan. But we took a photo with him, and I wanted to put the photo up on my Instagram. And my missus is like, I look a bit big. I'm like, well, of course you're big. You're showing. She's like, we haven't told anybody.
Oh, I see.
So what we did was like, hey, we hung out with Michael Stipe at Taste of London, and then blah, blah, blah. Oh, and by the way, we're expecting. So we put the shine on Stipe and less on us.
Yeah. Amazing.
But Buck's cool, man. Peter Buck's cool.
He was cool. I got talking about the fact that I've got a button phobia.
What?
I've got a phobia of buttons. It's called Cuneiformophobia.
The ones you put on your shirts and your jacket?
Yeah. That's why you'll never see me wearing a shirt, because I can't do it.
Oh, buttons. These buttons.
Buttons, yeah. Yeah, those horrible things that you're doing up.
Should I take this off?
No, it's fine. I can deal with it. But
so you've never worn like a button-up shirt?
Well, I had to for school, and it was quite traumatic.
Oh God.
Which is why, like, I'm now a music person because I can just wear black t-shirts and sweaters.
All right.
It's perfect.
What's the phobia called?
Kunapunophobia.
It's a great name too.
It is, and more common than you'd think as well. But the point was, I was sat with Peter Buck, and there was a button on the floor, and he said, "Oh, look, there's a button on the floor." I said, "Oh, fucking don't talk to me about that button. I've been trying to ignore it for like the last 5 minutes." And he was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
Did you know the name of your phobia then?
Yeah.
Did you tell him?
Yeah.
And what did he think?
He was just like, "I've never met anyone quite like you before." It's lucky like he's good friends with my good friend, otherwise he'd have probably fucking got rid of me, I imagine.
Good old Peter Buck.
Good old Peter Buck. So yeah, so back to the spandex. I mean, how many spandex outfits have you got?
7. I had them.
Are you still pouring yourself into them?
Nah. So Ed and I did. So Tim Ward and I did the Olympics of BMX racing. We were the live MCs.
Was that the one was that London?
So the guy who directed it was one of the guys who used to work on Rad. He goes, Christian.
Yeah.
And he would come to a lot of the festivals I was DJing at. He's like, I really want to bring one of your festival DJ vibes to the Olympics.
Yeah.
I go, all those DJs just play you like the chorus. The Fratellis.
Yeah.
They just keep slamming into those. And I'm like, that's not me. I like drops. I like letting a song go. And then, so you can build up to that chorus. There's a reason that chorus feels better when you have a longer build up, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But in sports stadiums, they just give you the boom. I go, that's not me. And he's like, no, I want a festival vibe. So I had the Stars and Stripes made for it.
Nice.
Because I was going to open up the festival. Open up the Olympics with an American flag leather jacket.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to have to plug this into this side. And then I was going to wear the spandex underneath, and I was just going to have American flag layers of it. But I would be kind of covered up apart from the jacket. And then the whole opening spiel was like, hey, welcome to BMX racing, first time at the London Olympics. And I was going to say that, and Tim's like, what are you doing, Christian? I go, what do you mean? I go, I'm welcoming everybody here, the world, to BMX racing. I can see Bob Harrow there. He was the guy BMXing in E.T. There's David Beckham. There's David Cameron. He's like, no, but what are you doing? You're wearing an American flag jacket. We're the host. We have to be impartial. Can you take the jacket off? And the whole joke was I would just keep taking off layers of American until you in a pair of Speedos, and then they were okay with the joke. Because you have to get everything written off. You have to, right. Everything's low cog was like so precious. And then they messed up the Korean flags in a football friendly right around the Olympics. They did a friendly football match.
Right.
And they got the Korean flags mixed up.
Oh dear.
So they said no flags. So I had to get an emergency outfit made. It kind of looked like Kylie Minogue meets David, Ziggy Stardust, lots of stars and stuff with a big hood.
Yeah. And
then that just kind of catapulted my array into spandex. But I always thought when you're DJing, I love doing it. You love doing it. But also, we're not with a guitar. We're not singing, we don't have drums, not much action apart from, doing this. And I've always thought, give them something.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd dress up for it, like Ed Lee and I would do at the board X and stuff with that crazy outfit. So I just wanted to be a bit more fun with it, and I would do lots of costume changes. There's a lot of holes in them because I used to wear them a lot for TV shows. They would always put a hole in the back for the microphone pack.
Yeah, of course.
And then that just would split them and stuff. So I got a couple. I've had to throw a couple away. And I still dress up. I wear cowboy shirts now. I have a whole closet full of crazy, embroidered cowboy shirts
and all that stuff.
Yeah, I can still be fun, but I'm 56. No one wants to see this body in spandex. I've definitely put on a bit of weight being a dad.
Well, yeah, it's inevitable, isn't it?
It is, because I just think you're eating a bit more with the baby. And when you kind of put on, a couple pounds, 5-10 pounds, no problem.
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you're putting on a bit of weight because you had some kids, it's just inevitable. Like Chris Cracknell says, it'll go or it won't. And it doesn't matter as long as you're happy.
As long as you keep stretching so you can carry on snowboarding.
Man, it just hurts taking off sweatshirts, doesn't it?
I put my back out putting on my boots in Countertail in April last year. I had to have a day off.
Oh, man. I'm sorry, Chris.
No, it's all right.
Oh, how old are you now? Do you mind me asking?
I turned 50 a couple of months ago.
Hey, the big 5-0.
I know, it's terrifying.
Well done. You're halfway there.
I know. Well, that was the thing. Like, I think it might have been Moran said, he's like, well, you can look at it like you feel old, or you can think like you're still here after 50 years of pissing around, basically.
I never thought I'd get to like 30, and here I am at 56,
Well, amen to that.
I turn 57 next month. How old is Moran? He's like
52, I think.
How's he doing?
Mate, he's amazing.
I miss him. I miss
He's
Moran.
living the dream.
He is. He is living the dream. Does he still have his boat in Brighton?
I mean, he is the 1%. He's got a chalet in the Alps and a boat at Brighton Marina. I don't let him forget that fact either.
He didn't. He did it well.
Yeah, he's doing all right. And what you should do, you should try and, if you can at some point, you should come over to his house and stay there. That'd make it a bit cheaper.
Yeah,
just for a weekend or something.
Yeah, because Jono's always going out there, and
yeah.
And I guess the hard part was raising 3 boys full time. Just trying to keep them in school, and then to go away was just, nuts, because they wouldn't go to school if I wasn't home.
No.
So, and then I thought, okay, they're out of the house. Here I can start going snowboarding again. And then I'll go and have a little baby girl. So,
well, without getting into like the nitty gritty of that, just, I mean, of your boys, I guess, because your daughter's too young. Have they been snowboarding? Have they been to the mountains? Do they know what it looks like?
No, we've just gone to snow domes.
Yeah.
And golf courses.
Golf courses, of course.
Yeah. I mean, we used to take Blue around to the mountains, like when we were doing the British Champs, like when Ed and I would host, or Tim when I would host the British Champs.
Yeah.
Ed, we would take a young baby Blue. So he's been on the mountains, and he's ridden a little bit, but he's not really ridden in the mountains. So
yeah.
I feel kind of bad because that's something I wanted to give them, but it's just I couldn't.
No, it's just too difficult. It's
too difficult. Schools, and of course the time you're at it when you have your half-term break, I can't afford to take them to the mountains during that week.
No, of course you can't.
But
do they show any signs of wanting to do it?
Noah and Blue they're all pretty good at skateboarding. Noah, the middle one, the 6'5" kid, he's good at skateboarding. Like, he's good. Yeah. He's got tray flips down. He's now learning how to surf.
Right.
So I think he'd enjoy it. And someday I would love to take him to the mountains and tell Chris Moran I'm coming with a crew.
Yeah.
And it was fun watching Moran build that house. That was the beauty of just watching him figure it all out.
Well, I mean, I've seen the process and finally got to go there. We're going actually there next weekend with my brother and Wheeler and...
You are?
Scott McMorris, yeah.
Oh,
just
man.
For like a 3-dayer.
Will you tell them all I said hi?
I will, for sure. But
I remember when McMorris, we first saw him at the Brits. He was doing these big backside 180s, and I was filming for Rad, and I saw him. I was like, that was huge and with style. And I go, please tell me someone's got him on a boot company. And I think Al, from A4, Al Green was like, yeah, and then I looked into it, and he wasn't on any snowboard companies, and I was like, do you want to be on Vans? He's like, well, yeah, because he skated,
Yeah.
And that's when I put McMorris on Vans.
I mean, it would have been, how come you didn't sort of continue working in the industry on that side of things? Because that would seem like an obvious sort of career path for someone who loves action sports to get into the industry and sort of do that life, and then that life would afford you to do things that you like doing.
They brought in a new guy into marketing, and they usually like to clean house.
Right.
So I was at Vans for 10 years.
Yeah.
It was weird because Rad and Vans kind of started at the same time.
Yeah.
I was able to kind of put a lot of the athletes on Rad. I was always about helping the industry. I put Ramers on Rad because, I just thought Ben Raymer was just a talent. But the new guy told me, they don't like being called the Groms, I go, well, who does? It's a name of a show. It's a vehicle to get them on TV and promote, your shoes. And he was Nick Street just didn't like me or what I was doing, even though we had a 250,000 people watching, their athletes, every Saturday, Sunday morning. He didn't like it. And I don't think he liked me. So he was just kind of, and I just had my third kid. Rad finished. We had the baby. And then my career at Vans finished. He got rid of me. And I was quite bitter for about a year. I was mad. I was angry.
Yeah.
Because, there was no golden handshake. It was like, you're out of here. Thanks for 10 years of service, but no thanks.
I mean, you were sort of Vans personified, it felt. Do you know what I mean? You had long hair. You had like those you always see me wearing those like raglan tops with, sort of the different colour arms.
Yeah.
Blue jeans, a pair of Vans. It was like you were sort of the epitome of what you would imagine someone being involved in that company would look like. Do you know what I mean?
Kept telling them that all of our core shoes are going to come back. I know everybody's going D3s and all the techie DC stuff. I go, just hold on to the core values, all the Jazz and the Eras, all those shoes are going to come back because the bands are going to start wearing them. Right now, we're going through this kind of like, Limp Bizkit. Everybody's wearing all the bulky shoes, but we've got heritage, and they kept spending all this money on these techie things that were just ugly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's going to come around. Listen to me. Like Chuck Taylor's have come back. We're going to do the same. Yeah. And then they got bought by VFC, and we were run by accountants, and then Nick Street just got rid of me, and I was upset. But I think if it wasn't for that being kind of pushed out, I wouldn't have started DJ BBQ because I went back to DJing.
Yeah.
So I went back to my love of DJing, and I was doing, I was going to Ibiza, I was going to festivals, and I was just DJing. I was working crowds, and it was on the banks of Loch Ness. I just followed Toby's set, and he did a banger of a set, and I was like, man, I don't play that kind of music. I play more party tunes in a different kind of, he's like, boom, 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 and I'm like more like, woo, sing along. And I remember the crowd getting nuts, like 30 deep outside the tent, and I look at the crowd, and they started taking their clothes off. And the girls
in Scotland.
Yeah, and the girls.
A rare warm summer, was it?
I was like, man, what the fuck am I going to do when I turn 40 or when I turn 50? I mean, I can't be playing to naked people.
Yeah.
I'm not Fatboy Slim. I'm Christian Stevenson. So that's where I came up with this idea of creating a destination at a festival where I could play to an older audience.
Yeah.
I can cook barbecue. I can still play music.
Yeah.
More funk and soul and stuff and hip hop and bit of rock and just throw parties. So people might come for the music and stay for the food, or come for the food and stay for the music.
You're quite, yeah.
And we created what we call catertainment.
Catertainment. You're quite good at inventing words, aren't you?
It's a lot of manifesting, man. I still love the phobia for buttons. Say it again.
Cunapoonophobia.
Cunapoonophobia. Wow.
Go on.
You win.
You'll meet someone soon and you'll know. They'll tell you and you'll be like, I know what that's called.
Well, a buddy of mine is Rick Parfitt Jr. His dad was Rick
Parfitt, the legend. The legendary Rick. Someone was telling me a good story about it. I can't remember what it was.
Well, Rick and I used to do a lot of events for Iceland grocery stores.
Oh, yeah.
So he'd be the house band, and his band is phenomenal. If you know someone's got money and they want all the hits delivered perfectly, Rick Parfitt Jr. band. Right. So we would always share green rooms together. And and I was like the host, the DJ, and Iceland would just throw these huge parties. Iceland throws down. They do. I was blown away. They turned their warehouse in Chester into New York City ice skating rink with like hot dog stands around it, and they just put ice in there, and they made like a full-on ice skating rink. Like they made Christmas in a warehouse. It was insane.
No way.
And I remember talking to Rick, and he's got a thing called Crohn's disease.
Yeah.
And I travel with a DJ who's got Crohn's disease, so I'm fully familiar with his diet and what he can drink, what he cannot drink, all those things. Sorry, all those things. Is this plugged in? Yeah. And I would tell Rick what was wrong with him, and he would look at me like, "How do you know all this?" I go, "When you spend every weekend for 4 years, during the winter with a guy who's got Crohn's disease, what they're going through because they've lost their intestines.
Yeah.
They fart like you've never heard a fart.
It's no filters.
Yeah. But he couldn't believe I knew all about it. It's weird that when you know people's ailments, when you can, now I know what kuna puna
phobia.
Kuna phobia. Sorry, I keep saying it. Is it tough to talk about?
No, it's fine. It's fine. I can deal with it. When my kids had to wear like shirts with school uniforms when they were small, and you had to do them up, that was a challenge every morning. That was.
Your missus must have hated you.
Well, no, I'd do it, but I'd feel like throwing up.
How old are your kids now, Chris?
14, 12, and 10.
Wow.
Yeah, we're taking them out to Moran's for their first experience of snow at Easter.
So you're going out twice?
Oh no, I've got quite a few trips. Well, it's because of this thing. Do you know what I mean? It's affording me a few opportunities, which was kind of the point, really. Because I'm, the same as you. I was like, I can't afford to go. My wife's really into it, so going without her feels like a bit of a misstep because she misses it as well.
Okay.
We hadn't been able, I hadn't been until last year. I hadn't been for 5 years because we just couldn't afford it. Mm-hmm. And we want to take the kids, but we can't afford that. Is it all right if I go by myself?
Yeah.
Feels a bit selfish. So yeah, that was part of the reason. And funny enough, your son being called Blue, it was because I was listening to Blue Montgomery on the Bomb Hole. That sparked an idea in my head to do this.
What did Blue say that sparked the idea?
Well, he was like, yeah, snowboarding used to be fucking rad. Like, board graphics were cool. Now board graphics are designed to be inoffensive, so they don't put anyone off, whereas they used to be designed to turn people on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's like,
Like skateboarding did the same.
Exactly.
They got their lead from skateboarding.
Yeah, 100%. So, and he was like, it used to be that it was as much the identity of being a snowboarder was the thing, rather than it was just something that you did as well as lots of other things. Do you know what I mean? Like people were snowboarders and they were all in, and that was so sick. Well, and that just made me think, like, that really resonated with me, and I just thought maybe we need to capture some of that spirit and present it pushing forward so that maybe younger people listening kind of can understand where it comes from.
I named my kid after Blue.
Yeah, I thought that.
Yeah, his family's from Iowa, where my dad's from, and my dad's sister used to live on the same street as Blue. But then my dad's like, because my dad never doesn't like funny, weird names, so he would go, Blue's real name is John. I go, I don't care. He was Blue Montgomery. I remember filming him at the Vail Halfpipe 95, 96, and it was him and Brushy.
Right.
And Tommy Toyminen. And I was, I think Mac Dog was there with Brushy.
Yeah.
And I was there with Toyminen and Blue.
Nice.
So I got to do some half-pipe stuff with Blue. And Toyminen and I just filmed everything. He was like my right-hand man. And we went all around the world together.
Was he on He was on Duotone, wasn't he? He had that board with the elephants on it.
Yeah. We Duotone were one of our sponsors.
Yeah. I've got one in my living room, actually, one of their later ones.
Really?
Yeah, I pulled it out the loft because sort of Munson hooked us up for a while.
Oh yeah, I was right.
And I was in my loft and I saw it and I thought, oh, I brought it down because he was popping by to do his episode. And I've not put it back up in my loft. It's sort of propped up against the wall in my living room.
Nice. So, what are you editing on?
I will put it in Logic Pro.
Okay.
Because that's what I use to do all my music work.
Gotcha. Is it pretty intuitive or is it really difficult to get around?
I think it's pretty intuitive. My eldest is just learning how to use it at school at the moment, and I think he can figure it out. It's not too difficult.
Yeah,
it's one of those things. It's easy to use to start with, but obviously the more you get into it, you start peeling back the layers of it. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Because I want to work on a food podcast. A buddy of mine's just written a book called Breaking Bread. It's about the history of bread.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do a series of podcasts with him because he's got so many historical stories around bread.
Right.
And I really want to record with him. So I didn't know if I should kind of buy some kit or should I just go to a podcast studio and just record them all there, you know?
I mean, slightly off topic. I would maybe record them at a podcast studio just because then you know like what you're getting is going to sound good.
Okay.
And then just put them in GarageBand and chop them up.
Okay, thanks. I know we went off topic, another tangent. I appreciate your...
There you go. For any aspiring podcasts out there, there's a
there
top
we go.
tip.
Well, don't take Chris's job because he's done this. Him, you got the bomb hole on this side of Lake Atlantic, on that side, and then you got Chris's. Thank you, snowboarding.
All right, let's. I'm aware that we've been going nearly 2 hours.
Have we?
Yeah, it's 10 to 12. This is all good though. But yeah, just I was going back to saying I was taking my kids out. I mean, snowboarding it certainly sort of took you around the world and, you know, sort of set your life in a direction that it may not have gone in if you'd stayed at home and maybe not gone snowboarding.
That's a good point. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I'm not selling insurance. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not, I'm not selling stocks. I don't have an office job.
Yeah,
I used to like this fact that when I was working on Vail Mountain doing ski videos for tourists, like I'd have my coffee mug, my travel mug, and I've been snowboarding from the chairlift 4 to the chairlift 2 with my coffee. And I go, this is my commute.
Yeah.
And I always love that.
Exactly. So just reflect on what snowboarding means to you.
Snowboarding pretty much made me who I am.
Yeah.
It did. Snowboarding, I loved sideways sports and I grew up skateboarding, but snowboarding, I was there at the beginning and I was able to get pretty good at it. Not good enough to compete really, just good enough to carry a lot of kit, and film other people jumping over a highway.
Yeah.
And taking me around the world to meet people from different countries, experience cultures, learning how to live. Because, you're trying to make a movie with hardly any budget.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get along and you're renting rooms or floor spaces in houses. And just because I had to take the role of producer because I could talk. Yeah. So, we all filmed, but I had to do more of the kind of making it all happen and bringing it together and find money. And I go to Vegas every year to the trade shows and try to find money. And, it really made me who I am. Snowboarding. I thank you for, keeping me out of an office and giving me a wonderful, wonderful career that lasted a long time and led me up to DJ BBQ. I think if it wasn't for snowboarding, I wouldn't have gone into DJing and becoming DJ BBQ. I wouldn't have created Catertainment. It's all down to the life of traveling and learning how to travel with hardly anything.
Yeah.
And making content. I mean, look at me. I've gone from making, action sports content to food content. But at the end of the day, it's still entertaining people.
Yeah.
People don't watch food shows to learn how to cook. They watch food shows to be entertained.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm here to do.
Okay. And so how I like to finish every episode is if you were talking
rap battle.
yeah, a rap battle. or make up a song.
I just thought I'd throw you off, but I don't think you can be thrown off, Chris Cracknell. How do you like to end every episode? Can I ask you a question?
Go on.
Okay, so I mean, I've snowboarded with you, and we've had some pretty crazy trips, and we didn't I watch you take a bicycle into like a tree or a bush?
Oh yeah. One of the board tests
in Austria, or after having
the boozy bike rides.
Yeah, tequila with orange slices dipped in cinnamon. Too many of them, and then you wrecked your bike. You've got to snowboard a lot, and you've created this Thank You Snowboarding this podcast to try to, like, I know people will talk about the old times, but it'll never be like the old times. It won't. It's always what the time is for these people and how they're experiencing it.
Yeah.
How do you want to help reinvigorate the snowboarding world or people's love of snowboarding? How do you plan on doing that? Apart from recording old people's stories, how is that going to get people into the sport, do you think?
What I'm trying to do is, I guess, open the conversation that people have with themselves or their mates about, oh, do you remember we went and did that? And, oh, we haven't done that for a while. Well, actually, snowboarding's still there. It's still as fucking rad and fun, and being in the just being in the mountains is the best experience. I think Melanie said it on her one, and I really resonated with it. She was like, the mountains feel like home. Yeah. I feel at home in the mountains more than I do anywhere else.
You know what? I've always said, if I can get back to the mountains, I'll be happy. I want to retire in the mountains.
Yeah.
My missus is more of a water person.
Okay.
I'm a mountain person. I fully agree with you and Melanie. I want to be in the mountains. I want to finish there.
Yeah. There's just something about, there's an idea that, you're either a sort of a woods person, a sea person, a mountain person, or,
or a city person,
hot desert, or a city person. And, I grew up in Southeast London. I know what a city's about.
Where in Southeast London?
Bexley Heath. I know, right?
Bexley Heath, massive. You and the Sig Cup, massive. A lot of the skateboarding and snowboarding community came out of those areas.
Yeah, I know. Sig Cup, massive. That was Cowley. What a legend.
Pete King, Dave Chesson. They're all.
Yeah, Dave Chesson. Yeah, I used to see him at what was the? I can't remember the name of the train station. Yeah, I used to see Dave Chesson around. But yeah, I just feel at home in the mountains, and I think for people that have maybe forgotten that, this is hopefully reminding them and giving them a bit of a spark.
Yeah.
To try and get back to it and to go and experience it. And and I think it radiates out in people. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's people I see on the school run, and I know that they go skiing, and there's a sort of glint in their eye, especially in the winter, because it's like, I'm going, or I've just been. And it's that sort of thing. And I think it radiates out into the world. So I just want to tell people stories to kind of reinvigorate them to go snowboarding. Or if they've not been and they've stumbled across this podcast, just to think, what is this world? Who are all these people? This just sounds like a really colourful place to be. Maybe I should go and have a look at that.
One of our friends, maybe you can help me, would always want to get the panda eyes you get from the goggles.
Oh, mate, coming back from the end of a season with tan lines. I mean, that was the best. You're going out in London with big tan lines.
I think it was you that would just love to get those, just so people will say, hey, man. And you go, well, that's where I've been. Then you can tell stories.
Exactly.
How awesome your last couple of weeks were in the mountains. That must have been you. I've always thought about because everybody's like, I don't want tan lines. But you wanted tan lines.
I liked it, yeah.
I thought that was you.
Everyone at the end of a season always looks really grubby. Do you know what I mean? Because they've got these tan lines. They look just like they're not washed properly.
But the one person I think, apart from Moran, who's done really well with keeping that dream alive, is Will Hughes.
Oh yeah, Will is. Yeah, he's as stoked for snowboarding as ever.
Yep. Because he was around a lot with raising my kids, so he was like my best mate. We were we were always together. We drank together because he was working, with Slade, and he was working at Slam City Skates.
Yeah.
But he was there, and then he went into snowboarding, and he just, I can't think of anybody who's done it better than Will Hughes. And wearing denim. Well, whilst doing it, I remember going riding with me. He's like head to toe in denim. Fuck the rules.
Yeah,
have you done him yet?
Yeah. I was out at the Dragon Lodge for like the first week of the season.
Okay,
so I did him and Scope and
I'll listen
John
to that
Dragon and Jono. You should listen to that one as well.
Which one's one of your favorites? They're all your favorites.
No, the one I did. Do you know Neil Campbell?
You just did that one in Lax, right?
Yeah. Now, just the way he presents himself and the way he holds himself is really inspiring.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that one.
I'll check that one out. I'm glad you did Will. I'll check out the Will one.
Yeah, you should go and listen to it. It's, like when you think, as you say, like hanging out in London with, like we used to hang out all the time. And I'd sort of forgotten about all that.
Yeah.
And then, again, snowboarding is another reason to sort of catch up with people. And you've always got that common thread. Like, you go and sitting on a chairlift. It's like no time has passed.
That's it.
And I think if you can experience that. I was going to ask you, why should somebody go snowboarding, or why should somebody who hasn't gone snowboarding for a while get back to it?
Because it's the most fun you'll ever have. One, being in the mountains, I think, grounds you. Like they say, going to the beach grounds you, or just taking your shoes off and going to a park. But going to the mountains, to me, grounds me.
Yeah.
It humbles me.
Yeah.
But it's just the best stoke I'll ever have is going shredding. And my missus is always like, why aren't you going snowboarding? You need to go. And I go, I know I need to go. But, you as a parent, you're like, I got all these responsibilities. I got to be careful with money and just, keep people going, keep roofs over heads. But I'm going to do my best to get back to the mountains, Chris. And thank you for reminding me.
You're very welcome. We're there. That's what I was trying to get to.
Oh, okay.
You hit the mark, exactly.
Is it rap battle? Oh no, thanks. You're right. I need to go snowboarding. I need to get my shred on. I need to go fast and take chances.
So there you go, Christian Stevenson. If you didn't know Christian before, well, you do now. He is a proper legend who has introduced a lot of people to snowboarding through his movies like Odd Man Out and Day Tripper and Still Tripping. Odd Man Out is up on our Shredflix playlist on our YouTube channel at Thank You Snowboarding, but sadly it doesn't have the music attached to it, which is a shame. Christian, if you ever get time, which, let's be honest, you're not going to, you could probably contest that one and get the soundtrack on it, which would be awesome. But both Tom Kingsnorth and Tom Wilmot chose music from that film to kick off their episodes. So that kind of tells you about how much reach that movie had. I remember sitting in a bar in Les Arcs, watching the Les Arcs section with some of the UK guys and Axel Poporte. And that was what attracted me to Les Arcs in the first place, really. And it probably did for a lot of other people as well. So, yeah, go and check out Odd Man Out for sure. And the next time you have a drink in your hand, whether that's a cup of tea or a coffee or a pint, just raise it to Christian Stevenson. He is a proper legend in the game. And I think UK snowboarding is all the better for having him as part of it. I don't think the American snowboarding scene would have really appreciated Christian for all he's worth. So, yeah, I'm pretty certain the UK scene does. So thank you, Christian. And thanks for your time. It was a good couple of hours and I laughed my ass off, which was a delight. Okay, on to other things. As I said at the top of the show, I'm going out to the Three Valleys at the weekend with a little crew of people. It's going to be an episode next week coming from there. I'll keep my powder dry on that one. Also, some other things for like some bonus content over the summer, which I'm planning as well. I'm going to keep my powder dry on that as well. Steve Griffith, who won the Lax Open photo book that I gave away last week on Instagram, that is winging its way to you now, Steve. I stuck it in the post this morning. Sorry it took a few days to sort that out, but, you know, that's how it goes. And, yeah, it's been snowing across the Alps, so good times if you're heading out there. People keep sending me things about snowboarding. I love hearing your stories, and just your thoughts about snowboarding or particular adventures or whatever. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can. thankyouSnowboarding@gmail.com, or hit up the DMs on Instagram, which is Thank You Snowboarding Podcast. You'll find us there. Been sticking loads of stuff up. The sort of Instagram works as a bit of a kind of bonus content section of this podcast, really. Old magazines, photos, memories, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you're interested in that, go and find us on Instagram, give us a follow. It's all appreciated. What else is going on? Just started planning a trip up to Scotland for the Up Battle. Johnny Barr's splitboarding kind of experience. I think it's sort of a competition, but let's be honest, the winner is anybody who enjoys getting up in the mountains, and the winner's anybody that turns up and the weather's not terrible or there is snow. It looks like the Scottish Highlands are having quite a good winter, and I just saw a thing about the Cairngorm funicular being fixed as well, or getting fixed, so that's quite exciting. So Cairngorm Up Battle, I think it's around the 15th of March. There's also a kind of rail jam thing down at the Pine Martin Lodge, which is on the way up to Cairngorm. So I think I'm going to be up there for that. Going to try and get some... I keep talking about the guys that handmade boards in Scotland in the 80s. Well, there's a couple of people up there who know all about that, and I'm going to be speaking to them. So yeah, if you can make it up to Cairngorm around the 15th of March, then we will see you up there, either at that rail jam or up on the mountain, hopefully, doing a bit of splitboarding. Yeah, let me know if you're going up there and we'll say hi. What else is going on? The British Champs, the Brits as it's known, Stu Brass's episode a couple of episodes ago. If you haven't booked that yet, definitely... If you haven't booked a trip this season and you want to go somewhere where there's going to be good vibes, loads of friendly people, sunshine, springtime conditions, a park that's going to be built that you're going to be able to ride, just good times generally, then the Brits, also known as the British Champs, is well worth the visit. I can't really say any more than that. You should go. If you've never been to a British Champs, you should definitely go. Whether you're young, old, or whatever. It's going to be good times, loads of snowboarders around, lots of people off this podcast that you can go and say hi to. I'm sure they would all be very amenable and be happy to chat about snowboarding with you, because snowboarders like talking about snowboarding. So yeah, if you haven't checked that out yet, go to thebrits.com, I think. There'll be a link in the show notes. So go and check that out. What else is going on? Mia Brooks continues to dominate. I think she's just had a bronze medal at some contest in Aspen. She's over in America at the moment. Bronze medal there. And Ed Lee was talking about her on 5 Live the other day, saying basically he thinks that she's up there with Lionel Messi and someone else, Serena Williams, in terms of being one of the GOATs or potential GOATs of the sport, which is pretty amazing, really. I mean, I know Ed's a little bit biased because he knows her quite well, but to be having that mainstream coverage is really quite mental. And that's snowboarding. I feel immensely proud of things like that, because snowboarding's quite a small niche sport, really. And when it gets to hit the mainstream, and it's talked about in the right way by intelligent people like Ed, it makes me really proud that I am part of this scene and this sport or this lifestyle, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that was just thoughts from the other day. The Spotify playlist, if you've got any suggestions, it is up to date with all the episodes so far, so it's growing. It has to be songs from snowboard movies. Only Maria Court got away with using a song from the skate movie The End, but that is the skate movie The End, so that's kind of fair enough. So yeah, if you've got a favourite song from a snowboard movie, you've got to tell me the movie from it's from, and preferably the section it's from as well, as long as the name of the track. I haven't got a lot of time to go chasing things down, and I've got a pretty good knowledge of snowboard movie soundtracks, but certainly that is from a certain period, so I don't know everything, but I will certainly add songs if you can back it up with facts. So if you have, then obviously email me at thankyouSnowboarding@gmail.com or hit us up on the DMs on Instagram. That'll be how you get in touch. And obviously, while we talk about the Spotify playlist of the theme tunes, the tune from this week is, of course, DJ Shadow, Midnight in a Perfect World, from the album Introducing, which was a track that was in Day Tripper, I think, or Still Tripping, but certainly one of Christian's movies. DJ Shadow. Actually, if you like DJ Shadow and you want to hear a 2-hour mix, you can have a look on my SoundCloud page, soundcloud.com/Chris Cracknell DJ. I will put up in the pinned mixes a 2-hour DJ Shadow mix I did in honour of the 25th anniversary of Introducing. You might like that, you might not, but it's there if you want it. I'll stick a link in the show notes. All right, we've gone over the 2-hour mark. What an episode. I really hope you've enjoyed this. And I certainly did. So there you go. I'll be back again next week, 10 a.m. Thursdays. If you can, please leave a review and a 5 stars. Obviously 5 stars. Why would you put anything else? 5 stars reviews on whatever platform you're listening on. It is massively appreciated. It's only a small amount of your time and effort, but it really helps me here do this. And I like reading your comments as well. So yeah, all good. Obviously, thank you, Snowboarding. See you next week. Peace.